What have you made of all the criticism and that more doom and gloom about a team in the top four?
Yeah, look. Firstly, disappointing last Friday night. We played poorly, but yeah, some perspective would be nice. I think.
Why isn't there perspective?
Don't know. Possibly the way we played, and I think our challenge is now to aspire to get better from there.
Is it because people expect so much of the tries?
Don't know. That's probably for other people to speculate on or opinionate on, if you like, about what they expect. I mean, we've played some really strong footy. Even a week before, we played Fremantle and played probably as well as we played all season. And as I said on the night down at Geelong, credit Geelong, they played well and we didn't. But that's footy. That's what happens. And as I said all year, this is an even competition. And in an even competition, you don't have to be far off to get beaten. And we were off in the key indicators that we value, and that led to the result.
So, having said that, we've spoken to a few players, and they said it was one of your more stern reviews that you've given. Did you go in there with a pretty clear message?
Yeah, we had a good discussion about what happened on Friday night, and we've covered that, and we move on. So we've got St Kilda in 3 days, and boys trained this morning and trained really well, and again we've reflected, and now we look forward to St Kilda.
What was the review like?
Yeah, it was covered the areas we need to cover.
What areas were they?
Well, the fundamentals of our game, which is what underpins how we play, were the areas that let us down on the weekend. And that was fundamentally the contest and our ability to defend the ground. And we had a situation in the second quarter, we had 16 inside 50s to 10, and they scored every time they went inside 50. And that's a breakdown in how we defend, and that's been one of the strong points of our game all year, as has the contest. So if we go away from those core fundamentals, ultimately that leads to score against, which leads to result. So it's not a complex solution. It's more just redefining exactly and making sure guys are really clear what is going to create winning for us and what has created winning for us in the past.
Don, is it fixable? Like, is it an attitude thing, or is it more?
Well, I don't perceive there's anything really broken, to be honest. We had a bad night. As I said, from a perspective viewpoint, we sit at 8 and 3 in the ladder. We've got a big game against St Kilda come Friday night. One we're really looking forward to, and we're still playing good footy. So I don't think there's really anything there that needs to be repaired.
Is it still look, obviously this is now 3 losses, I know 8 wins as well, but you know, if we talk about events and then things happen again, so that it becomes a bit of a pattern, is there a pattern developing, or is it just a series of one-off events, these 3 losses?
No, I think there's a component in there which would be when we're challenged, as we were against, say, Melbourne and again on the weekend, we need to rise to that challenge. And that's part of us getting better.
When you say challenge, do you mean as in physically? Because that seems like when teams have, like I said, brought it to the contest and really attack the ball and attack the man in some instances, that your side isn't able to withstand that pressure.
I think it's probably just challenging the pressure of the game is probably what I'm referring to. When the scoreboard maybe doesn't say what you want it to say, or the contest is a fierce contest, our ability to rise and play at that level is important, because that's what aspirationally we aspire to be a top 8, top 4 side. That's where we need to be stronger.
Is there any chance that Mitch McGovern plays this weekend? In
terms of from an AFL viewpoint? Yeah. Unlikely, given the time he's missed out. He's been out for, what, 7 weeks now? He'll definitely play at one level, but probably most likely to be at SANFL level.
But you wouldn't rule him out at this stage?
There's a thought in the back of my mind, but it's probably just that at the moment.
What is disappointing for Luke Brown, obviously, 2 to 4 weeks, I think.
Yeah, look, we're really hopeful with Luke. He's gone in for surgery today, so we're hopeful with him it'll be probably hopefully as soon as straight after the bye against Hawthorn. But it was one of those unfortunate ones that happened, I think, with about 5 minutes to go, and the course of action and advice was to go in and get it fixed now. He potentially could have played on with it, but it wasn't going to be the best long-term fix for him.
And Jake Lever?
Yeah, Jake should be fine. Jake should be fine. We expect he'll do a bit more training. Didn't do a lot today, but he'll do more tomorrow, and he should be ready to go.
With Luke Brown out, is it as simple as bringing Cole Cheney back on the side?
Oh, he's a possibility. He's been playing at SANFL now for the last, I think, 3 weeks back. So he'll be one option that we'll consider at match committee.
Who else do you sort of hope in that? Because it seems like you might not have many options in that sort of small defender sort of role. Yeah, we've got some guys who are currently playing who've played back as well for us this season. So obviously Dave McKay's played back. Richie Douglas has played some minutes back as well.
And then we can look at how we restructure maybe our forward half. Obviously, guys who have been close to selection in recent weeks with John O'Beach. Riley Knight's been back for a couple of weeks as well. So there's some options there at selection. It'll be a good discussion.
Scott Thompson to you in the frame?
Yeah, well, he's been back and playing some good footy. It's really just a matter of how the balance looks with Scott coming in as to who we go out and how that best sort of structures up for us as a side.
Do you look to make changes to send a bit of a message, or is it strictly on what?
No, that's the weird thing. I mean, the same 22 guys who played against Fremantle played against Geelong, and yet I think we'd all agree that it was quite a different level of performance. So they didn't forget how to play in 6 days. We just didn't play to the level we want to play, and we didn't play the way that we trained to play it, and the way that we understand, as I said, creates winning for us. And so it's a great challenge for those guys. I'm not necessarily sitting here trying to send signals or messages or anything else. Are they capable? Very much so. We don't sit at 8 and 3 and not be capable.
Does that frustrate you, the gap between Fremantle and Geelong?
Not frustrate. No, it's probably more we reflect as to why. But as I've always said, there's a long season, and you're going to have ups and downs. And we had it down on Friday night.
Can you talk us about that? Just how you elaborated on it's not broken. You just mean fundamentally your structure isn't broken. Perhaps it just was a breakdown sort of thing. Is that what you mean by that?
I think your fundamentals is what underpins, and the principles of how you want to play underpin how we go. That's what we coach from the start of pre-season. And under any situation in any sport, the fundamentals of how you want to play and the fundamentals of the game itself. And some examples from the weekend would be the ability to lay a tackle and stop Geelong coming out the front of a stoppage to lead to an inside 50 or a goal. That's come off the back of a fundamental, which is sticking tackles. Those things there, when they break down, structurally changing things doesn't necessarily help. It comes down to those things, and that's one example of what I talk about when I talk about the fundamentals.
So just an execution.
Yeah.
So Don, have you had to really focus on a few key elements to fix that issue in training this week, or has it been training as normal?
No, we trained as normal, and we went through this morning. We prepared for St Kilda. Had a look at their side, had a look at how they've been playing, and we trained according to what we're likely to get presented with on Friday night. And we stayed true to our system.
Given all of what you've said and how it's not as doomy and gloomy as some people say, has it been frustrating or unfair when the Jonathan Browns of the world say you don't listen too much to what the exterior people say, but is it frustrating when they say the Crows just aren't tough enough?
People are paid to pay opinions. Again, that's the landscape which we operate in. We focus on what we can control. And what we control on our side is how we go about preparing and planning for games of footy.
So you think the Crows are tough enough?
I don't think you win 8 games by not having and be number 1 in contested footy if you're not actually capable of winning your share.
Are you worried sometimes that you're becoming predictable? Do you need to change things up, as in teams try to do the same thing to beat you each week?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting sort of question and dilemma, isn't it, in terms of what is actually a side's DNA and how they play. And I look at all the successful sides, not only in AFL footy but in world sports, and you look at how they play, and there's a real consistency about how they go about it. It's not like you sit here being able to train 2 game plans. We have a way we want to play, and that's why we need to be flexible within that, but we also need to be consistent through the phases of the game. And I think the best teams are capable of doing that and doing that consistently. Not necessarily thinking the chop and change is the answer. We need to be flexible and adapt, but we also need to be really strong in the principles which we know will hold us in good stead and which have held us in good stead to win games of footy.
So the criticism, I think it was Matty Lloyd yesterday on Sports Day, said that he spoke to some Geelong people who said they knew what the Crows were going to do, and you guys did exactly what they thought. Is there a thought then you should have changed things early in the game? Or?
Yeah, and we probably fair to say knew what Geelong were going to do, and they did pretty much what we thought they were going to do. There's no real secrets at AFL footy level. I mean, we know pretty much how St Kilda are going to want to play on Friday night. It's your ability to execute it. Yeah, you've got to be able to change and adapt at times, and we've got to be flexible in that space. But executing the fundamentals is paramount to getting success.
Don, you normally talk a little bit later in the week leading into games. Promotion into batting order today to come out on Tuesday. Is that just a matter of getting on the front foot?
Just how it landed, I think, this week. Normally I'll speak after main training, which just happened to be today because we've got a Friday night game.
And just lastly, any issues with the Socceroos playing at low level Thursday night in terms of not being able to get on the ground and no captain's run, that sort of thing?
No, it's no issue. We've played there all year. I'm sure they're going to remove the goals for us before we play on Friday night, so we'll be fine.